Good morning. My name is Alessandro Grattoni, and I am the chair of the Technology Development Subcommittee. I serve also as a professor and chairman of the Department of Nanomedicine at the Houston Methodist Research Institute. I will want to start introducing the committee members, subcommittee members. Together with me, there is Danielle Wood, Dr. Danielle Wood, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Aeronautics and Astronautics at MIT. Dr. Heath Mills, who's a CSO at Rhodium Scientific. Dr. Brian Hess, who's a CEO of Rep Bio. Henry Hansen, who's a mechanical engineer at Adidas. And Ms. Christy Cox, who's at NASA, who works at NASA. Our charges for our subcommittee is to function as in an advisory capacity to provide a UAC with the technology development input and perspective about the utilization of ISS National Lab resources, and also to provide recommendation on how to improve on the current processes for the effective use of these ISS resources. So we will assess the current utilization processes, evaluate the potential initiative that the ISS National Laboratory may take to that would lead to improvements. And then we would provide obviously reports and communicate the finding to the UAC. We have designed a shareholder survey to be able to gather relative information related to the development of technologies on the International Space Station. The objective is really to understand what are the current limitations and what is actually working, as well as trying to really reach the broadest number of users of the International Space Station in the context of technology development. The current survey distribution has reached 70 representative users of the ISS National Laboratory in the context of technology development, but we are working toward a broader distribution with the help of the International Space Station and the ISS National Laboratories. The current number of respondents is 29, and we have been able to compile a set of results that provide an interim understanding of the data that we have been looking for. So I will go quickly through the results. First of all, the respondents, the vast majority of respondents, they come from companies, private companies, and the vast majority of which is startup. These are startup companies, and there is about 30% of respondents that are coming from the academia. Clearly, the technology under development are primarily dedicated to the biomedical sector. 80% nearly of the respondents are working in this field, followed by about 10% of space infrastructure, spacecraft, and space habitats, and among others, and then follow again by a smaller percentage from Earth observation, food and instrumentation, and scientific equipment. The vast majority, about 95% of respondents, is aware of the opportunity that exists to conduct technology development on board on the International Space Station. And also, the vast majority of them, 80%, they are aware of all the resources, the equipment, and the infrastructure, and the environmental condition on the International Space Station. And they got to know of all of these from information they obtained through the MASS Challenge, the ISS National Laboratory website, NASA or ISS National Laboratory RFAs, as well as from implementation partner companies. About 13% of non-respondents, the vast majority of which are from the academia, have not had much information with regard to these resources, and while 7%, so a smaller percentage, would still prefer to have additional information. So ideally, again, we would try to understand, the ISS National Laboratory has been dedicating a lot of effort for technology that have to do with terrestrial application. Clearly, the responses have shown that that's the case, they all acknowledge the fact that the ISS National Laboratory provides unique resources for studies and research and development that is not feasible on Earth, either for technology related to space or for terrestrial application. Also, very importantly, they have highlighted that the investigation on the ISS provides enhanced visibility through media, as well as additional marketing opportunities. As I mentioned, again, most of the technologies under development are dedicated to terrestrial medicine or to both terrestrial and space technologies in general. So the respondents have indicated that in the vast majority of times they have been receiving funding from NASA, NIH, DoD, so federal institutions for studies on the International Space Station, and these have been utilized along with additional funding from their own individual organization. So one important aspect with regard to funding is that the respondents, 30% of respondents they potentially have an interest in performing science on the International Space Station, regardless of receiving funding from the government. But another equivalent number of individuals, about 33%, indicated that this would be prohibitive, and therefore federal funding are absolutely needed for this. Looking at the limitation, the current limitation and barriers for technology development on the International Space Station, the primary limitation are associated with the cost of the studies, as well as the time and uncertainty in timing for performing the analysis and performing this investigation on the International Space Station. Another good percentage of individuals have indicated that there are challenges associated with the preparation of the experiments and the hardware for the actual projects. Several individuals had about 30% of respondents indicated that they had to interrupt projects in the course of execution because of lack of funding support, and also for half of these, they have indicated challenges in coordinating efforts with International Space Station National Laboratory. Most of the study requires crew time. This is very important. About 85% of respondents indicated that crew time is needed. And in many instances also multiple flights are needed. So it's always important to consider that, again, for technology developments, you may need to go through several phases in your project development, and therefore multiple flight may be required. The space flight for most respondents represents an opportunity that will inform on technology development and will serve as a go and no-go criteria for further developments. The technology, the analysis that is done in space may also provide, in certain instances, information regarding the ability of potentially recovering the cost from the investigation, but also an information of whether this technology could be eventually profitable. We requested to the respondent to provide particular information on how would they suggest to improve the process for technology development on the International Space Station, and the areas of improvement include streamlining the funding process, and of course increasing also the opportunities for funding, and then improve on the cases grant organization and a review process for increased transparency, and potentially improve the outreach effort to increase awareness about the opportunities as well as the equipment and infrastructure, specifically for the academic sector. So if we want to look and summarize all of these, the key points, the key takeaway points are the following. So the ISS caters primarily to private companies and academia in the biomedical sector. The ISS enable development of technologies that they are not feasible on Earth and mostly are focused on terrestrial application. It also offers particular visibility and marketed opportunities. The funding source they are used for studies on the International Space Station are really a mix between federal funding and private funding. However, federal funding appears to be necessary for successful execution of studies and research and development. The biggest challenge are cost, uncertainty in timing, and challenges in designing the experiment. And often, to add to the complexity, is that multiple flights are needed, and in most cases, they require crew time. The opportunities for improvement definitely include the outreach, especially in the academic sector, and also there are opportunity for increasing funding opportunity, perhaps by partnering between ISS National Laboratory and other federal agencies or other foundation or science-based institutions. With this, I conclude my presentation. I just would like to inform you that our subcommittee meetings are scheduled for the dates that you can see for 2022, with the first date being on January 12 from 2 to 3 p.m. Central Time. Thank you very much for your attention.